Yo, what's good, everybody? And today we're going to be reacting to day two of the NFL Scouting Combine, which happened yesterday. It was defensive backs, safeties, and tight ends today. And so basically, what it was there were a lot of the drills we saw yesterday, but with the tight ends, we got to see receiver drills, and with the cornerbacks and safeties, we got to see them also practice their ball skills. Pause with the different drills that they had going on. So just to talk about some guys that stuck out to me, and it's a really exciting. Actually, I'm a lot more excited than I was the day before about the cornerback class because there's actually a lot of very solid quarterbacks, and I feel like it's even though past like the Travis Hunters and the Jahdae Barons, there's a pretty good depth to this class, but it would be masked if you didn't realize that most of these cornerbacks fall into different categories, that they bring different types of skills to the table. So this cornerback, sorry, might be a third round prospect or a fourth round prospect. However, he could honestly end up being a starter for you pretty quickly. Just depends on what your team needs as far as skills go for cornerbacks. Sorry, early in the morning. But yeah, so that's pretty promising. If I'm an NFL scout and we need help at corner somehow. And yeah, let's get right into who I thought was really good. So there's one category that I feel like these guys are just absolute athletes, right? So they're that category, and there are a few guys that I want to talk about in that. They were just athletes, right? Their skills might not have been super polished for the most part, but athletically they looked amazing. First on that list has to be Maxwell Hairston out of Kentucky. 4.28 speed, so really top tier. Top of that class, by the way. And yeah, like he actually ran really well in all the other drills, and he was reaching some high top speeds, and you just saw he's explosive. He can go. So that's the type of guy that, he's gonna, with that speed, 4.28, he's gonna kind of rise up to the top end of these draft boards. I feel like for cornerbacks, I feel like he is in the running now to kind of be looked at for cornerback 3, cornerback 4, cornerback 3 if you consider him over Will Johnson, who didn't participate. If you think as a scout that those are a sign of more things to come. Other guys in that same category of just kind of athletes, Darian Porter out of Iowa State, I was pretty impressed with. 4.3 speed, so a little bit slower than Maxwell Hairston, but the edge that he has is that he was a former receiver, from what I heard from the commentators. So him coming out of Iowa State, his friend Breece Hall, who was tweeting about him, and like deservedly so. He was an exciting prospect. He is very fast, and he has those ball skills that come and go as a DB, but if you have it consistently, then that's a good sign. So he's a guy that's going to be rising to, kind of just separating himself a little bit more from the pack. Another guy that was an absolute athlete, in my opinion, Zay Frazier out of UTSA. I'm going to continue gassing this guy up because, not only is he from my alma mater of UTSA, I do believe in him as a prospect. He's got a 6'3" frame. He tested a very high relative average score as far as the total combine statistics went. Not only did he have a 4.36, which is still very good. It's finished top 5 in cornerback speeds. And the only thing that he was kind of inconsistent at on the drills yesterday was his ball skills, which, like I said, come and go as a DB. He has to focus on his concentration drops, absolutely, but he has the takeaways stats to back it up. I think he had 6 takeaways in the previous year, and also has like pass breakups, and had a couple of takeaways that weren't actually didn't actually go through as a stat because they were called back. So he has the mind for it when it comes to football game speed inside of the game. So once the ball skills get there, will catch up with the instinct that he has as being a ball hawk. And I also think that, something that people were saying about him was that he only served this past year as his first year as a starter for UTSA. I wouldn't be too discouraged by that because UTSA always believed he had the talent, but I want to make it known that he was injured and only got cleared middle of last season to actually play full time. So I think it's important to understand that context, and that's why he only served one full year as a starter for UTSA. So if anybody from the draft is watching this, make sure you remember that. Now, there's other kind of guys that we need to talk about as well. Guys who are just absolute top prospects for the position: Jahdae Barron and Trey Amos. In my opinion, their measurables weren't as good and as good as we were expecting, but I still think as prospects they're very, very talented. And Trey Amos running a 4.43 at his size is a big win. And so I think it's important to remember that these guys are still going to be top prospects, but they have the talent that we need for a cornerback, but they just fall into a different category of their measurables weren't the best. They didn't test the best as they were expecting. There were guys also who were just extremely polished that I was impressed with. They just all around had very solid skills. And the first one I want to talk about is Robert Longerbeam out of Rutgers. He's a name that I kind of wanted to keep an eye on. Rutgers being close to me here in New York, they're in New Jersey. He's a guy it's gonna be important to remember. He looked extremely polished, even though his measurables were around a little bit above average. Kobe Bryant, even though he ran a 4.53, he looked great athletically, in terms of the drills, but his 40 speed was closer to the bottom of the class. Other guys, Mac McWilliams, he looked like an absolute tank. He ran a 4.41, so nearly that 4.4 and sub 4.4 speed, and he looked like an absolute tank. Super strong. He had a lot of explosiveness and effort coming off of the line when he was doing his drills, coming off the starting point rather. And so he's a guy I want to look out for, especially as well. Now, as it goes for the safeties, I mean, the only real thing to talk about is Andrew Makuba. He did fine, different guys like that. Malachi Starks, he finished with the 40 speed near the bottom of the class, but it's expected that his kind of measurables were going to be in question. Nick Imenwori, though, is the big guy we got to talk about. He ran a 4.38, which was second in the class. He had a 1.49, which was the top 10-yard split speed in that same drill. He had a 43-inch vertical. That is absolutely insane. That is far and away the best, I believe, in this entire draft class as a whole. Broad jump, he finished 11.6. For a safety, that's really good and the best in the class. And then 3-cone, he didn't actually do the 3-cone. Shuttle, bench, we don't have those stats, but he finished with a perfect 10 relative athletic score. That is insane. Perfect 10 for Nick Imenwori. He's going to be a guy who's, at the very least, he's your safety too, but in my opinion, and primarily he's going to be drafted as a strong safety position, he's a guy, when safeties go, that I think is above Malachi Starks for me at this point. For me. Because his tape looks good. After you get past the athletics, what does his tape look like? His tape looks good. 4 interceptions, I believe, and 3 pass breakups last year, which is that's nothing to sniff at when it comes to the compared to his peers in this class. So he's a guy I'm really excited about. Tight ends. We didn't see a few of the big names compete, which would have opened the opportunity for guys like Harold Fannin to participate well. Harold Fannin tested averagely, on the average side, sorry. He had a 4.71, which was top end of the tight end class that did participate in that drill. And the top speed was 4.63. A lot of people were giving me a lot of flack on Twitter because I still believe in him as a prospect, even though he tested just fine. And there's nothing wrong with the fact that he tested good. He tested good enough. So I mean, with what we did see was that he does have his route running. It's crisp when it's crisp route running and good route running when it's tested at the base level, such as they do in the combat drills. His straight line speed wasn't necessarily the best, but it's still something. And his 10-yard split was fourth in the class as well, 156, or tied for second rather. So it's kind of like when you look at it that way. Sure, he didn't finish the best in the 40-yard dash drill, but the first 10 yards was top tier in that of the people that participated. His vertical was average. There's nothing wrong with the fact that his on the day his drills were average, because his route running was there, his catching was there, he was getting to the ball, he wasn't dropping them. And at the end of the day, he's 20 years old. He's 3 years younger than a lot of these guys that are being drafted next to him. And there are plenty of names that are still going to be drafted highly that finish with like 4.8 speeds. Jackson Hawes being one, Gunnar Helm being one. So let's pump the brakes on the idea. Of course, we're all excited and Mitchell Evans and Jake Browningstool, they were also guys that finished below him in terms of speed on the 40. So let's pump the brakes on being alarmist when it comes to Harold Fannin, because of course we all wanted to see him be elite and show what he's got, but it just didn't happen the way we expected it to happen. He didn't finish elite or test as well as we'd expected. That's okay. Don't even worry about it. Don't sweat it. Now, that's just me. Of course, we didn't see guys like Tyler Warren, Colson Loveland, or Elijah Arroyo today. Other than that, we got some news in the NFL outside of the combine. It has been said that Stafford is returning. Matt Stafford is returning to the LA Rams, which unfortunate for me as a Jets fan who was a big fan of the idea of trading up for Cam Ward. All the stories that are coming out now, again, it's within 24 hours of when my last video was. So all the stories that are coming out now are now pointing to a different direction. It could change tomorrow. But for now, it looks like Stafford is returning to the LA Rams. That means for me as a Jets fan who is a fan of the trade-up scenario, one of the dominoes that I hope to fall, such as Browns, Giants, or Titans finding their veteran quarterback that they wanted to sign or trade for, which would take away one of the options of them going for a quarterback in the top 3. That did not happen just yet. Apparently, the Giants are looking at now Sam Darnold, who they're very interested in, Aaron Rodgers. I need the Giants to go for one of those big names coming out of that top 3, because they are now in talks for a trade-up scenario of their own of going to number 1 so they can draft Cam Ward. So I need that. I need some good news today. Unfortunately, as well, Tony Pauline had reported, and Sleeper had regurgitated the report, saying that all the toxic people that he's talked to from the New York Jets are saying that they're perfectly prepared to go with Tyrod Taylor into the year as their starting quarterback and look for a quarterback of the future on day 2 or round 2 or 3 of the draft, which I'm not a huge fan of that option. I would have rather maybe had a Justin Fields come in and then maybe we go for a round 2 or 3 guy, but there's still guys that I do like as far as like upside goes long term. And Tyrod's fine. I just don't think that it's going to be similar to like a Jacoby Brissett situation, except we don't with the Patriots, except we don't actually invest in a top 3 pick on a quarterback. We would go for that in round 2 or 3. A lot of people are saying tank for Arch Manning. I don't think that's what the regime has in mind. I just think that the direction that people are saying they're going is a little misguided. And that's my first time being critical of this regime of Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji. But I'm saying that's just not personally what I would have gone with as far as direction, which is okay. And everything can change. Things can change tomorrow, like I said. Things have changed so much in the past 24 hours. So as it pertains to that story, I think we're in a solid spot as long as those dominoes of the Giants and Browns and Titans QB situations, those start to fall. Then it becomes a lot more clear that a trade-up situation could be viable for my New York Jets. But we'll see. We'll see. I really liked Cam Ward's press conference. He was talking about he would love to be one of the pieces that brings the New York Jets to a competing position. And he said they're not. He doesn't think that they're too far off. He thinks that himself with the likes of Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall would be an elite offense. I agree. So he was very well spoken. On the flip side of things, Shador, not very well spoken. Well, as far as like demeanor goes, he brought his ego to the table, and I guess that was a strategy manufactured by Deion Sanders. But I don't agree with it, especially when you're not participating in drills. You didn't participate in the Senior Bowl. You're gonna do your pro day, but that's still the last domino to be seen. Back up your ego with doing the drills if you're gonna talk like that at the combine. It's just my opinion. Just my opinion. I didn't think he needed to say as much as he did either. But, big personality out of that guy, And today we'll see what the rest of the crop looks like as far as quarterbacks go, because quarterback, running back, and wide receiver today going to be an exciting day. I'm going to be watching all of it. I wasn't paying as much attention to yesterday as I should have been, but I still think I got, pretty relevant insights out of confirming things about guys that I already knew were true, and keeping an eye, putting myself on to some guys that were were interesting from the get-go, and I should have recognized. So real recognize real when it comes to that. Lastly, other than that, the only other thing I can think of was we got the bench scores for the defensive line. Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant, they had a 24 and a 23 rep bench press respectively when it comes to 225 pounds. Mike Green finished near the top end at 28. I think one guy finished with 32 reps, which is absolutely insane, but I don't think he's going to be on many big draft radars if I can remember. But Mike Green finishing with 28 reps, that's pretty solid. That was at the top end, I believe second or third in the D-line class when it came to reps. So that's a good sign, because Mike Green's a guy that you want to see perform well when he does participate. But yeah, other than that, I'm going to be paying attention to today, and let me know what you thought in the comments. Make sure you drop a like and subscribe if you enjoyed. And follow me on all socials in the description. Please, 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 and thank you. Peace.